What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. The 2021 Survivor Series is less than 48 hours away, but you'd never guess it from the lack of hype for one of the WWE's big four pay-per-views. Will the WWE do anything on Smackdown to build up the show? Well, join us now as we look at this week's edition of the Blue Brand, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including why a wrestler was released, Roman Reigns talks Hollywood, Triple H returns, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the show, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, a fantastic Fatal 4-Way. Well, the WWE hasn't done much right with developing their teams for Survivor Series' traditional 5-person elimination matches, but last night's Fatal 4-Way to fill SmackDown's 5th spot for the men's team was actually well booked. First, it showed that not just anyone gets to be on the team, and second, it featured a fast-paced match between Sheamus, Ricochet, Cesaro, and Jinder Mahal, as well as developing the apparent alliance between Sheamus and Ridge Holland, following Holland lending a helping hand to ensure Sheamus won. Number 2, rebooting Xylee's character. Is Xylee about to become the WWE's latest superhero? And while that remains to be seen, the WWE's comic book inspired hype video for her was a clever way to get fans excited about the former NXT superstar's arrival on the Blue Brand. That Reckoning character just wasn't working for her. Number 3, a furious finish. Last night's fantastic finish between Big E and Roman Reigns was a much needed segment for the Survivor Series match. Having Big E show up to dish out some revenge on Reigns not only hyped their bout, but showed that Big E can back up his talk. Far too often, babyfaces promise revenge only to fail in backing up their words. Not so last night, with Big E getting some much needed payback on the Tribal Chief and the Usos for injuring Kofi Kingston. Likewise, King Woods, who did a great job on the mic explaining what being a king is really about, exposed Roman Reigns as a bully. He also showed fire in dropping the dogs on Reigns after Roman tried to have the Usos ambush him again. But that was the good. What about the bad is number 1, another lazy battle royal. And to no one's surprise, the WWE is holding a 25-man battle royal, assuming the company doesn't release any more superstars between now and Sunday. It's on the Survivor Series pre-show, another example of the lackluster booking of this year's show. This isn't the first time the WWE has used a battle royal to cram in as many superstars from both brands into a Survivor Series show, but it's another meaningless match, much like the various brand supremacy bouts on the main show. Their failure to make any of the interbrand matches affect WWE storylines is something that the promotion should have corrected as soon as it began tweaking the Survivor Series format to pit one brand against another. Number 2, who's that girl? Who's that well-built blonde that's been added to the Women's Survivor Series team? Well, fans unfamiliar with Toni Storm were probably asking that question until Kayla Braxton interviewed Storm, congratulating her on being added to the team. The WWE used social media to announce Storm was replacing Aaliyah rather than producing a short segment on the Blue Brand. It's one thing if the WWE thinks it can build up its social media account as a news source, but quite another to ignore utilizing TV to spread the word. It's a disservice to Storm and to fans who don't waste their time visiting the WWE's Twitter account. Number 3, sloppy Survivor Series setup. The WWE's complete failure to hype Survivor Series came full circle with last night's episode, as SmackDown did nothing to promote what was once the WWE's biggest show of the year. Sure, the brawl between Big E and Roman was exciting, but what about the rest of the pay-per-view? It's almost as if the WWE only works hard when it comes to promoting Roman Reigns. The poor build-up to this year's Survivor Series has just been embarrassing, and we're wondering just how much effort the WWE has put in booking the show. Number 4, stop the Caesar-inducing shots. Now, we've said it before and we'll say it again, someone get rid of whoever's making the rapid-fire cuts on SmackDown. Although fast cuts are good for action movies and horror flicks, they don't work well in wrestling, and besides confusing the fans as to what's going on, they gave us one big headache. If they keep up with these shots, it may be sued for inducing seizures in some viewers. Number 5, the SmackDown screwjob. Looks like the WWE is setting things up for a screwjob finish between Charlotte and Becky. You'll likely recall our previous reports of rumors that they wanted to go with a screwjob finish in the Flair vs Lynch match, once reminiscent of the 97 Survivor Series. Last night's tag between the teams of Naomi, Aaliyah, and Shayna Baszler and Natalya featured the referee making a fast count and the referee asking authority figure Sonya Deville if she did a good job, to which Deville no-sold her and said she doesn't work with crooked referees. What could they be trying to say about this referee and Deville's insidious intentions with this sledgehammer subtlety? And a boring Banks vs Blackheart bout. Shotzi vs Sasha was a much anticipated match that quickly devolved into a sloppy showdown. Both women are talented performers, but something didn't click last night, and what might have been the match of the night didn't deliver. Equally as bad was the WWE's decision to have Banks beat Blackheart, killing some of the momentum Blackheart had after her heel turn. Now, when I was saying that Shotzi should have won, but the WWE should have had this one end in controversy in order to keep fans guessing whether she can beat the boss. Now, there was nothing downright ugly about last night's show as the Blue Brand continued to build storylines between its various stars, including the undercard programs involving Los Lotharios and the team of Nakamura and Boogs, the feud between Shotzi and Sasha, and what could have been a fun run between Jeff Hardy and Happy Corbin. It's good to see that Smackdown isn't wasting time in setting up new storylines with its newcomers, but it's disappointing it hasn't spent much time leading up to this Sunday's pay-per-view. What did you guys think of Smackdown last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at why Top Dolla was released. Atop in the news today is a report concerning recently released wrestler Top Dolla. The WWE's releases this week caught many by surprise, particularly fans of Hit Row, the faction that was recently promoted to SmackDown. However, a recent report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter explained some backstage problems that may have doomed the faction. They had a good act, and Francis aka Top Dolla, while Green was way ahead of the game considering he didn't have his first match until May and didn't start training until 1 year ago. While he came across well on TV, he rubbed a ton of people the wrong way in NXT and was getting the same reputation on the main roster. He was the one Vince McMahon saw as the star of the group because of his size, and once they decided to get rid of him, the other two likely were caught in the crossfire. Miles really wasn't going to do anything on the main roster without the group. Strickland is not their type as they're looking for the bigger guys, and Francis not being with them pretty much doomed them. Now, it's unfortunate that the group was released as they were on the cusp of a feud with Jinder Mahal and Shanky. However, an exchange during the program may have pulled the trigger on the decision to dump Hit Row. As we speculated about his release, Top Dolla's recent diss track against Jinder Mahal and Shanky, whose funny rap mocking Hit Row apparently rubbed Dolla the wrong way, did not seem to go over well, and Top Dolla deleted the track. Despite Meltzer's report and the speculation surrounding Top Dolla, the man himself is disputing the reason why it was released. He responded, "Here's what rubs people the wrong way, standing up for your own. When Brie was released and I called the office myself to tell them that they made a mistake. Standing up for yourself. People in the PC told me Hit Row wouldn't work for a year and a half and I never took their advice." He continued, "Trust me, I got plenty of stories I can tell about how I was disrespected, but just took it on the chin like a professional. Even with the video I released today, it was all professionalism, but I'm not gonna let these BS reports ruin my reputation. I got tea I can spill too." My fans will be certain there will be more reports on Hit Row's release as well as whether Top Dolla contributed to it. Next up, Randy Orton talks about breaking a huge record. A third-generation wrestler, Randy Orton has accomplished just about everything there is to do in WWE, and now the 14-time world champion is set to break the record for most appearances at the Survivor Series, and as mentioned earlier this week, Orton is currently tied with Kane for a number of Survivor Series appearances, but barring a last-minute appearance from the Big Red Machine, Orton will set the record. But does this mean anything to the Viper? Well, he recently tweeted, "I've never been one to keep records or stats throughout my career. Early on it was laughable to consider in my profession that you had wins and losses. You certainly wouldn't talk about it with the boys, much less fans. But I'm fortunate to have some fans and friends that have done just that. Kept my stats, not just wins and losses but damn near everything you could think of. Came to my attention that tomorrow at Survivor Series I'll set a new record for most pay-per-view matches by anyone in WWE history." Orton reflected further on his pending accomplishment, tweeting that his Survivor Series appearances won't be the only record he sets. The following night on Raw, coincidentally, if I have a match, I'll have more matches on Raw than anyone in history. I saw this online, checked it, and it's true. Kind of hard to believe as it feels like I only started down in OVW yesterday. I just want to take a minute, light of these stats, and let everyone out there that's ever supported me in any way know that I am thankful. I also know with all my heart that I couldn't have done it without you. Now on to my 15th Survivor Series. Man, time flies, doesn't it? Next up, Triple H returns. And following the sad news regarding Triple H's cardiac event, the former champion rightfully took a step away from working and Shawn Michaels stepped in to oversee NXT. And whilst Bruce Pritchard recently provided a positive update on his recent health, the cerebral assassin was seen back in action as all of the McMahon family was seen overseeing the new build for WWE's new HQ. In the video, Triple H looks stronger than ever, and we're glad to hear it. And finally, Roman Reigns to Hollywood. And last but not least, current Universal Champion Roman Reigns is already planning for his post-wrestling career, a point the Tribal Chief made clear during his appearance on the Michael Kay Show. At the end of the day, we know how this works. This is a young man's game. You can't fall down your whole life, you have to get to a point where you can transition, where you can continue to connect and create new, fresh, evolved content for your fan base and your supporters. Roman discussed his goal for the future, i.e. trying his hand at making movies. I think I have the ability to do that. At the end of the day, it's about being thrown in the fire and seeing how you do. I have a pretty good track record of being thrown in the deep end. If that's what happens in Hollywood, I'm looking to swim. Reigns, who's been part in the film Hobbs and Shaw, will provide his voice for the upcoming animated film Rumble. Do you think he could be bigger than The Rock in Hollywood? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.